Australia, we've just had our 2014 federal government budget handed down. And part of that budget has seen some incremental increases in fuel excise, aka tax. Now, not a lot of people are wildly excited about paying more fuel tax, and I doubt that the Treasurer is simply overwhelmed with people congratulating him on that. But do you know there are some really simple, easy things that everyone can do to minimise your exposure to fuel tax? Some easy things that every one of us can do right now, today, to not only minimise our exposure, but in fact reduce the amount of tax we pay rather than increase. So today we're talking about 5 simple ways to pay less fuel tax. Number 1. Let's start from the top. There are dozens of things you can do, but these are the 5 that are going to give you the most bang for your buck. Things that you can do really simply and easily. Number 1. Plan your travel carefully. That means thinking a little bit about every time you go to get into your car or your SUV, where am I going? Why am I going? How can I coordinate this with other things that I'm doing? If I'm going to pick the kids up from school, how can I do other things on the same trip? How can I avoid travel? Can I carpool? Can I share my travel with other people and so on? So planning your travel is going to very likely significantly reduce the amount of kilometres or miles that you do, and so reduce the amount of fuel that you burn. Therefore, reduce the amount of tax that you pay. Now, number 2, reduce speed. Now this will apply particularly to people who are out on the open highway where you're travelling potentially at 100 kilometres an hour, 60 miles per hour, rather than people around town. And the facts are really simple about this, that up to about 80 kilometres an hour, most of the resistance that your vehicle faces is by rolling resistance, tyres and friction within your vehicles, mechanicals and so on. But once you get over 80 to 90 kilometres per hour, most of the resistance is actually wind resistance. So from then on, whenever you go 90, 100, 110, if you're in a suitable speed zone, the wind resistance rises really steeply, and so your fuel consumption rises considerably. If you keep your speed down to about 90, you will significantly reduce your fuel consumption, and I mean significantly, therefore paying less tax. Now, number 3. Reduce harsh acceleration and deceleration. The logic behind this is also pretty simple. If you accelerate hard, your vehicle is going to use a lot more fuel than if you accelerate gently. It's not rocket science. And the same applies with braking. Many people don't realise this, but if you speed right up to somewhere where you've got to stop, be it an intersection or a set of traffic lights or whatever, or something blocking your road, if you stop really quickly, you're going to create a lot of heat in your brakes. Where does that heat come from? Your fuel tank. If you brake earlier and let your vehicle slow gently, you're going to save a stack of fuel, a really substantial amount of fuel. We'll talk some more about that in another video. But for the exercise today, simply reduce the amount that you accelerate harshly and slow harshly or brake harshly, and it'll make a really big difference. Number 4, maintain tyre pressures. Your vehicle manufacturer or your tyre dealer will be able to tell you the appropriate pressure for the tyres on your car or your SUV. If these pressures drop too much, you can use up to 10% more fuel. That's a substantial amount of fuel and a substantial amount of fuel excise that you're paying the government. So, getting your tyre pressures right is really important for saving fuel, as well as for safety reasons, for handling reasons, and for the life expectancy of your tyres. So make sure your tyre pressures are correct, and it'll make a really big difference. Number 5, and this one's to a lesser extent but nonetheless important. Be careful about your air conditioner usage. Now, your air conditioner or your climate control consumes quite a bit of fuel when it's running, and it, depending on the size of the vehicle and the conditions you're operating under, the temperature and so on, it can be 5% or even more the amount to which it can affect your fuel consumption. These 5 things are just simple steps. You can do this today, right now. Implement these things and you will reduce your fuel consumption really substantially. And in so doing, you'll reduce the amount of excise or fuel tax that you're paying. I'm Neil Finlay, and I'm from the Mentor's Diary.